How many actual technicians like the word sales?
None.
Okay, then stop teaching them how to be freaking salesmen.
Yeah.
Teach them how to have upper level communication in the house. Teach them about the psychology of sales. That's where we need to be training.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Home Service Hustle. I am your host, Jonathan Bannister, and today's guest is Joe Person. Joe is a sales coach and trainer with the Go Time Success Group, and he is going to be dropping some of the biggest value bombs today. We are going to cover non-selling sales techniques. Guys, we have to tap into the psychology of the customers that we're trying to sell to, and we're going to ask questions like, does your sales team or your selling technicians believe in the equipment pricing that they are actually selling? We have to overcome that objection of your own team members, and he is going to cover it and talk about it. Asking the right questions, presenting options, and this is the biggest one that I felt like he discussed today, is stop selling and start communicating. He's going to talk about how to communicate the right way with our customers to be able to sell and close more deals. Guys, you don't want to miss it. Let's go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Home Service Hustle. I am your host, Jonathan Bannister, and today's guest is Joe Person. Joe comes to us from the Go Time Success Group. He is a success coach with them. Welcome to the show, Joe.
What is up? Thank you so much for having me on, man. Awesome.
Absolutely. Hey, well, listen.
I love it.
Absolutely. I appreciate that, man. And I was kind of reading over your bio. It looks like you've kind of spent your time growing up between Florida, and you're here in Texas now?
So between Florida and Colorado. So
Colorado.
Yeah, our company headquarters is Dallas-Fort Worth area, Hurst, Texas. Okay. And I spent a lot of time down there, which I'm fortunate to say that. But no, a lot of time in my past has been spent between Colorado and St. Petersburg, Florida.
Yeah, so I'm really interested in hearing about kind of the childhood and your family had a jewelry and coin business. Is that what it was? I want to know more about that.
Yeah, so still, right? My grandfather was a numismatic. Wow. He was a coin doctor, if you will. He studied currency, which is pretty awesome. And in my childhood, before it was cool, before currency was cool, gold and silver was, that as a commodity back then, obviously was important, but it wasn't as important to the world as it is now.
Right.
So I used to go to work with my pop, and I'd go hang out at my grandfather's office, and he'd have, bricks and blocks of gold. I'd play with my G.I. Joes and stuff on big blocks of gold, man. So that was kind of cool.
That is super cool. So the family business is still around in St. Petersburg.
Yep. My dad's still rocking and rolling down there. Jay Person and Company. He's still doing his thing. He does a lot of estates for attorneys, valuing antiques, collectibles, those types of things. He's done antiques roadshow type things and all kinds of guests on things that require professionalism or his skill in that craft.
So you grew up in St. Petersburg, and then you got into the real estate and mortgage business. Was that in Florida as well?
It was, yeah. What a wave that was.
Yeah.
1999 to about 2008.
Wow, 2008. That's that famous year that everything kind of went boom.
It started in 06, though. It started in October of 06 when we had a mortgage company, me and my buddy Justin, and we remember the fax machine started at 7 o'clock in the morning. And all day long, we got 350 denials for all the loans that we had in underwriting because all of these subprime companies were going out of business. We were like, what is going on? That was October of 06, which to me, that was the start, right? When all of our loans started to have all these guidelines change and all these things and these, conditional approvals we have are now declined. That was a rough environment.
Yeah, it's funny, to kind of think back 2006, 2008, when, the big bubble burst. And then we're looking at the real estate market right now. And, it's wild. It seems like the Wild Wild West right now. I mean, certain markets are just completely out of control.
Yeah.
And just kind of hope that there's no bubble that's going to burst, but it's still got to make you a little, caution.
Yeah, I think anybody that went through it, learned from it, will just maybe
Mm-hmm.
tighten up the reins at this point. We still own a real estate company here in Colorado Springs. My wife is a broker, and she owns a company here. And we're not really seeing a slowdown.
Yeah.
It may take a couple days instead of 24 hours now to list something and sell it.
Right.
I don't think we're going to see a huge recoil in house values. If anything, it might level off, and at that, it might be for a short time. As soon as we go through another election or whatever happens, and we kind of pull ourselves out of these gas prices and these different things, home values are going to start to go up again. So, yeah, man, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah. I mean, where we live here in North Dallas, I mean, we've just seen home values double and triple in less than like 2 years. And it just doesn't seem like it's going to stop, So it's like, well,
yeah, this is the world that we live in.
So tell me how you went from, the mortgage and real estate world, and then 2012, you hop into HVAC.
Yeah, so a little lapse there. Before I got into HVAC, I actually started a fitness company out here, out west, that blew up into about 30 or 35 locations, and it was a heavy focus on sales. That's ideally, really all I did. So from about 2008, like we just talked about, when the whole mortgage thing went kaput, I ended up relocating out to Colorado, started a fitness company, turned it into a national franchise, and by 2012, I sold my portion of the business and moved back to Tampa, Florida, where I'm obviously born and raised, Tampa, St. Pete. At that time, 4 kids biologically, no foster kids yet, but 4 kids biologically, married for a long time already. I really had this thing in me. I'm like, well, what do you want to do when you grow up now? And it's like, you go back and kind of start your life, and you're back where you grew up, and it's like, all these crazy emotions. But I had a friend that went to school for HVAC, that was working as a selling technician in Tampa, and dude, he was raking it in. So really, what I was more attracted to than anything was knowing him, one of my close friends from my childhood, knowing his personality. I knew it was probably something that I could do pretty well, because we're very similar in that regard. So I was interested really in kind of the margin. Who's able to pay him like that? That's pretty awesome. There must be some good, money going on in this business for this guy to be able to make a living like this with, a trade school certificate, right? So I looked into it, and I ended up jumping in the truck with him. We rode, for a couple weeks together, and dude, I fell in love with selling equipment in the house. Becoming the consultant, everything that we have to do to for that residential equipment sale to take place. I fell in love with the process, and man, it's been a ride since then. I'll be honest. I went to a very quick trade school. I was a dangerous maintenance technician. I lasted long enough to set some leads and let them know at the company, he's pretty good at sales. So man, they threw me an equipment book pretty quickly. I got picked up in Central Alabama by a company, by a manager that saw something in me, and he hired me to be a sales manager over 5 Comfort Advisors for a period of about almost 5 years, 4 years, 8 or 9 months or so.
Nice.
So yeah, man, that's kind of how I got kind of brought around and brought up into what I'm doing now.
So tell me, what drew you to it? You did a couple weeks right along with the buddy of yours. I mean, and obviously you saw something in the margins and what the owner of that company was able to pay him, based off his commissions and whatnot. So you were attracted by that, and obviously you're a sales guy by a natural salesperson here. So what drew you to the HVAC life, and then kind of what got you, tell me about that experience a little more in Central Alabama. What part of Alabama were you in?
Montgomery, Millbrook.
Okay.
State capital area.
Tell me a little bit about that experience and the difference maybe between being when you started out in Florida, were you a selling tech, or did you eventually become just a full-blown comfort consultant?
I was a maintenance guy that turned into a comfort consultant pretty quick.
Okay.
What attracted me was probably the adversity, number one, and number two, I would say probably the challenge. I mean, I guess adversity is kind of the same way, but the competition. You know, I know we're up against other people, right? When we're in that scenario,
Yeah.
and how am I going to win? Like you said, natural sales guy. That's all I've ever done. How am I going to win? And I love that game right there, right? Because that's what I do. I win, and I can teach other people how to win too. And that's really where, why I'm passionate about what I do now. So the experience in Central Alabama gave me an opportunity to become a leader in the industry and teach other people what I was very successful at, which was presenting results to the customer.
So talk about that success a little bit that you had in Florida. Like it's a tough market. I think we can all agree that getting your reins there in Florida and being successful in Florida, you can probably take that approach anywhere in the country. So what was success like for you as a comfort consultant?
Ranging 60 to 80% closing percentage and a $10,000 average ticket when nobody really had those.
Wow.
Because I was always looking for more. There's other stuff, right? And it's not just about looking for more. It's actually about satisfying the customer and producing an experience that other companies won't go out and produce.
So walk through that a little bit. What I know a lot of comfort consultants and even sales coaches kind of have their flair and their strategy for how they teach now and how they present when they're actually in the home at the kitchen table. So any tricks or trades that, you can kind of let the audience know of what were some things that worked for you when you were down in Florida and what you trained your guys in Montgomery when you were at that company. And then maybe in comparison to kind of what you teach and coach today at GoTime.
So I could probably start that out by saying that a lot of trainers nowadays, they focus a lot on tactics, a lot on responses, a lot on kind of, I hate to say it, man, but kind of the cheesiness of sales. And you probably shouldn't. So what I focus a lot on is actually what I call non-selling sales, which is actually focusing more on the communication aspects, how psychology ties into this. Things that I can do on the forefront so they don't become a problem on the end of the call. And I think that's the land that I learned to exist in because I was constantly looking for differentiators. How am I going to separate myself from these other companies, from my competition? And that's what I found most success in was really not selling them at all, was actually focusing a little bit more on relationships, on questions, on kind of relating to them, connecting with them in their own home, having these levels of respect for the job, for the house, for their family, for their situation, right? Not just doing a job. And I think that's where I saw most of my success.
So I like that non-selling sales. So what do you feel, or let's say, give me the top three things that you would say that you would focus on when you're teaching your customers or clients now through the training program? Like what are some of the things that you focus on as non-selling sales?
Number one would be overcoming objections, or at least the thought of an objection before it happens, before it becomes verbal, and most importantly, because once it becomes verbal, we all know that's done sales before. It's almost too late a lot of times when it becomes verbal, right? We need to focus on overcoming that stuff in the very beginning. So number one, I'd say your arrival, the way you present yourself to the customer, and the way you almost present yourself to your company, right? Because you have to have this self-being about yourself, this level of confidence that it has to almost reek a little bit. Customers got to be able to sense that, right? Because they can see what we believe about ourselves.
So give me an example there, Joe.
Like how about knowing your job, right? And having a confidence level. Here's a good example. Do you believe in your pricing? When you present a price, do you say something like, I know it's expensive, but hey, I don't make the prices.
Right.
Right. That's not confident.
Right. And I think that's big. And then, so How do you, like, if for the business owners that'll be listening to this episode here, how do you train them? Or let's say, for instance, you're doing a sales class. You're teaching a sales class. Primarily, you're going to have comfort consultants or selling techs in that class.
Correct.
How do you get the message across to the owners to say one of the big things that an objection that has to be overcome is by your own sales guys, that they have to be confident and comfortable with the pricing of the equipment? So is that a conversation that you work with the owners ever to say, hey, have you ever talked to your guys to see if they believe in the pricing? Because I will, I'll let you know that one company to another company, their pricing may be completely different, but it may be based off of the margins that company, the overhead expenses and everything else look completely different. So they have to charge more for the equipment, right? Like, they're not just trying to rape everybody, in the market. And there may be some companies that are like, but whatever, it's their business. But I guess I've never really thought about that. Are you teaching your own team what goes into owning a business and the cost of doing business so that we can pay you what we pay you? And, so when does that conversation take place? Because obviously you can ask the question to somebody in one of your sales classes, but if they say, no, like, I think our prices are too high, like, what is your approach then?
Well, you have to kind of work backwards with those type of technicians or that type of mindset. Okay. They're not believing. So if they're not believing, there's a falsified agenda somewhere. Well, what's happened? If they're not believing, maybe they think the owner's making all this money, hand over fist, or all these other positions in the company besides theirs are making all of this money. So you have to adopt a transparency exercise, and you have to do it all the time, because as prices change, and your prices do change, your technicians need to understand and learn why. We don't just need to say, oh, it's because it's the cost of doing business. Well, yeah, we get that, but let's get their buy-in so they believe in it, so they can present it to the customer properly. And the best way you can do that is by working backwards, showing them what goes into cost, right? In order for us to make this margin, which we're going to decide what our retail price is, what goes into the cost and how is that changing over time? So we work backwards. We show them all of that, like adding levels of transparency that a lot of companies don't. You really should.
All right. So making sure that the technicians believe in the equipment pricing that they're selling is big. What would be another non-selling sales approach that we would need to look at?
So again, more communication. So we ask questions when we run calls, right? Sometimes we get answers to questions, and when we take them at that, we take that answer at face value. How many years have you lived in the home? 2 years. Awesome. We write down 2 years and move on to the next question. There's a pile of money sitting in them questions. Okay. And a lot of guys miss them, right? They miss them. So we teach, what are the questions that we're asking? What do they actually mean? And what can I do with them, right? Because what it's really about is communicating and getting the customer to understand, I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm here to help you, right? So if I can do that and translate that information properly, what it would look like would be, if I find a problem, if I'm asking a series of questions and I diagnose something, right, stimulate some type of pain from you, it's very easy to ask you, oh, your daughter, she has asthma. Okay. Is that something that you maybe think we should keep in mind while I'm here today? Yeah, if you can, that'd be great. Awesome. I've got several options that I can show you to take care of that today. And we're not trying to sell anything yet. We've just now put that thought process in the mind. Now, when we get to the end of the sale and my price is larger or more expensive than anybody else out there, all I have to do is tie back and say, well, hang on a second, Mr. Customer or Mrs. Customer. Earlier, you had mentioned that you wanted me to solve some problems about your daughter's asthma. Oh, this includes all that? Oh, okay, right? Because it was their idea. So this is the type of sales that non-selling sales represents, because I'm actually not selling anything. I'm just communicating with you in a way that I know you might like it.
I like that. And then, so when you ask the question, we'll say, how long have you been in the home? And they say 2 years. Is that where we're trying to dive deeper into,
Yeah,
well,
that's
they've
why I
only
come
been in
by.
there, 2 years. So maybe this is their forever home, or they do plan on being there quite some time. And if we could tie them into being there for at least 10 or 12 years, like if they have no intention of leaving anytime soon, then obviously they're going to want the most comfort while they're in that home.
A lot of guys that come through my class, they say that same thing. They think that it has to do with a level of awareness, maybe how long they're going to live in the house. So they might want better options, right?
All right.
But that's actually not it. And that's not what I teach. And this is cool. You'll get a takeaway here. That question would stimulate whether or not somebody's going to have sticker shock at the end of a sale or end of a sales process. Because if you tell me 2 years, my next question needs to be questions around, have you ever made a purchase like this before in your life? So I might say something like, oh, so are you guys first-time home buyers? Or, oh, okay. Oh, you are. Okay. So you've probably never done something like replace like a roof or a water heater, or heck, maybe even an HVAC system. No way. No, we haven't done any of that. Okay. All right. I'm not saying I'm going to discount the customer and get frustrated and leave now, but it does open up to me how they're going to do business, right? That customer might be a little surprised when I get to the finish line and it's 25 grand, right? So I know that I need to do a really good job here up front explaining things so I don't have that problem. Let's take the opposite end of the spectrum customer. I've been in the house 18 years, 20 years. Oh, okay. So you've probably done something like replace your roof, your water heater, your right. And they say, oh yeah, we've done it all. Everything you can do in this house. We've even done hurricane impact windows. Oh, dang. Okay. Out of those two customers, it's very plain and easy to see who's not going to be surprised by our price. And that's really, to me, what upper level communication looks like on calls. No surprises at the end. If I failed.
Do you think that, I look at those two scenarios and I feel like, they're obviously, that's where we're digging and asking more questions and trying to prepare ourselves better. But, me personally, I've owned 3 or 4 homes and I've never had to replace the air conditioning unit because I've never been there long enough and they've been fairly new homes. So, but if I feel like that person who's been in a home for 18 plus years, if they replaced their system 12 or 13 years ago and they haven't had really any idea of what air conditioning costs and equipment costs have gone up to, that may be a bigger sticker shock, and they really may be doing some price shopping than somebody like me that's just going to base it on the company, the reviews, the things I've heard about it. And it's like, well, I mean, this is what the cost today's times are. So, but
the point is that's what it does. It stimulates that conversation. And if I can have that conversation early and often, that's when I want to have it. I don't want to get to the end and have, reservations because of my price for a potential reason that I could have seen in the beginning.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. All right. So we've got, making sure that the selling tech or the comfort consultant believes in the pricing of the equipment that they're selling, asking the right questions, at the right times, and preparing and setting ourselves up, towards that end goal, which is obviously, closing the deal, but make sure that we're prepping the questions. Some of that information we're keeping with us towards the end, kind of like the asthma situation that you were talking about.
Yeah, just an example. Yeah.
So what would be, give me one more, tactic or, sales technique on the non-selling sales. Cause I really like this subject. And I think when I truly believe if you can tap into the psychology part of selling, you're going to have more success.
That's all I've ever
at the end, I think, doing, the skeevy techniques and things like that, like, obviously you can close a deal, but when you want to talk about repeat business and you want to talk about referrals and you want to talk about being the best in the industry, it's about being you. You got to be you first. But if you can tap into the psychology and the mind of, who you're sitting there talking to, you can sell to anyone. So I would love to hear maybe.
It's not sales. At that point, it's not sales. Yeah, it's not sales. It's just communication. And
Yep.
how nice is that we can touch on that? Because let's be real, face to face right now. How many actual technicians like the word sales?
None.
None. Okay,
None.
then stop teaching them how to be freaking salesmen.
Yep.
Teach them how to have upper level communication in the house. Teach them about the psychology of sales. That's where we need to be training, and that's what my sales class does offer. So the last one, because that's what you want, right? The
I want
last
one more.
Okay, one more. One more would be, to me, the way that we present options. And here's what I mean by that. We all present multiple options nowadays. If not, it's definitely something that you should do, presenting multiple options. But here's my point. Think about the arrival and how much weight we put on the arrival. So we arrive out to the customer's house. We sometimes new customers, we introduce ourselves. We have some level of value statement for our company, right? We overcome our agenda fears, our credibility concerns. We overcome the financial aspects, right? All inside this little kind of elevator pitch. And then we go inside the house in a sales scenario, because that's what I teach. We sit down and we evaluate the customer then through questions. And those questions, like I'm teaching you, they mean a lot more to how somebody makes buying decisions than we think. So we go inside, we do this, we sit down, but then we have all these questions. Now we get up to go do our job. And we go outside, we take measurements, we do our load calc. We got all the windows, we got the exterior, we're peeking our head through the attic, we're looking at insulation. We come up with our load calc and we come up with our options. How long does that take? You know, if you're doing it properly and you're showing value to the customer, that could be 30 to 60 minutes, right? To take those pictures, get those measurements, get what we need to come back. So think about this. We arrive, we bring the emotions of the call up by this introduction, this great introduction, by the way, and then we go through all of the technical aspects of our position. Usually it takes 30 to 60 minutes. That's 30 to 60 minutes that we're gone from the customer. Gone. We might be outside. We might be down in the basement. We might be up in the attic. We might be out in our truck. We're all over the place. But guess where we're not? We're not at their side. We're not asking and answering questions. So here was kind of where I'm going with this. You have to have some level of emotions attached to this, to the psychology of selling. When you get down to the end of a sales process, you can't just structure a bunch of numbers after being gone for 60 minutes and sit a customer down and say, all right, here you go. Which one's going to work best for your family? That doesn't work. You actually have to have another kind of almost value statement, another almost kind of reason why you're there, why your company's in business, why you deserve to have this transaction, why you deserve to make this sale. Why? Well, that's where we need to spend a lot of time. So again, let's bring you back through it mentally. You've been gone 60 minutes. The customer has forgotten about the experience that you delivered when you first arrived. You've heightened the endorphins. It's a chemical thing. Now 60 minutes has passed and they're bored. You've been outside videoing stuff, taking measurements. That's not exciting at all. So come back and build some excitement. Hey, Miss Customer, I went ahead and put together several options for you. But look, before we get started, let me give you the reason why I do this for work. Let me tell you why my owner does this for work. Let me tell you why, all these things, right? That just mean now it's time for me to earn your trust, earn your loyalty, earn your business today, no matter what your personality type is, because I'm willing to do this. I'm willing to engage with you and deliver on this ultimate experience. So that's what my last one is. Have some type of climax before you present your pricing. Most cases, it should be multiple options. And in every case, it should be what we call top-down selling, which means I'm taking my highest and my best option. I'm presenting it first, and I'm not moving on until I get your permission as a customer. So that's my.
So can you give an example of the climax before the presenting of the options? Like, what would be a good climax? Because do you feel that there's ever that time in that 60 to 80 minutes that we may be away from them, that we should be communicating, that we're doing a check-in, that we're letting them know what it all is going into these calculations and to get the best options for their home? Because there's a lot of times that anybody else that may have been in there before or after they go in may not be doing these same things and taking the same time, and they just may be slapping something together and going to their next call. So do you feel that it's important to let the homeowner know like what we're actually doing during those calculations?
So yeah, it definitely, but we do. The void that I'm describing is the void of us going and doing our job properly, us going and taking the measurements that we need, us putting our eyes on every aspect of the system, including the duct that we can access in the attic. We're walking out everything. We're not leaving any stones unturned. That creates quality in the conversation because you're willing to do what other people aren't willing to do. But an example would be what's your why? Why do you get up every day and do what you do for work? What motivates you? What stimulates that, right? People like to hear that type of stuff. They love to know that you're not just Superman, meaning a technician that's there to solve their problems, but you're also a human being. And that's what people relate to. So I would say continue the connection process by explaining your why, maybe even having them explain theirs.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Then we talk about the hardest part, the money.
Right.
That's when it comes out. But guess what we've done? We've built the mindset and the structure around almost padding the fact that we're now going to talk about the hardest part of the sale, which is the financial aspects.
So, all right, so now we're at the kitchen table. We're talking about the hardest part, the financing. What is your strategy on the financial side, on using financing as an option? What do you guys teach at Go Time? And let's talk about presenting the financial part of it.
So we actually don't teach strategy because to me it's not my choice. It's not our choice. It's the customer's choice. What we teach is leverage. Empower somebody to make a decision by giving them not just leverage, but by also giving them multiple options. What options do for us is it opens up the power of choice. People love to be in control of purchases, especially large ticket item purchases in their home. They love to be in control of that. So if we present highest to lowest, right, and we have options on there that we know they might not even go for, right, based on our dialogue and our conversation, we still have to apply those options to even add contrast, right? Because if I give you one option and it's $7,500 and you tell me, let's just say even 10,000, one option, and you say, wow, it's too high. This is crazy. Are you crazy? Okay, dang it. But what if I could have given a $25,000 option, a $16,000, a $10,000, and then a $7,000 option? Right now, the 10 doesn't look like it's that high, right?
Right.
So there's magic in the way that we explore those levels of thoughts with the customer as well.
So on having the top-down approach and having at least three options, right? I mean, is it a good, better, best? Yeah, at least three.
Yeah, we teach four.
I like four as well. But are y'all strategizing on working in financing or figuring out early on in the conversation if it's going to be cash or finance that they're looking at?
Yes.
And then are you trying to get that approval early on in the process?
It depends. It depends on the customer. I am definitely finding out, right? I'm asking questions about budget, asking questions about monthly payment. I'm starting to tickle, to have that level of conversation. But I think the point here is you're supposed to make it as easy as possible to do business with your company. And that means application process. That means install process. That means all of these finish lines that we have to cross. Make it simple for the customer. Because if you do that, then it's easy to do business with you. They're going to do business with you almost by accident.
Nope, I agree. I guess I feel it, if I'm the sales guy, it gives me a little bit of reassurance if I did have them pre-approved, and let's say they were pre-approved for 25,000, it makes those options a little stronger than if, my approval came in at 7,000 or 8,000. I know I'm going to have to more likely go back to the finance company and ask for more money.
Yeah. All of the day's work.
Yeah, I know.
I'll be honest. I'm not treating either one of those customers differently. Yes, sometimes it is easier to see the finish line with a larger or a higher ticket, but that's not really my level of concern, right? Yes, I'm trying to get work for the install department, trying to get work for my company, heck, trying to feed my family, but that's not my focus. My focus is taking care of the customer. And every call that I'm on, I'm going to treat them the exact same way. Whether they can afford 8,000 or 28,000, that's not going to change for me.
Yeah. I like that. And yeah, I mean, I think that's big. The non-selling sales, that if more comfort consultants and selling techs could kind of get out of their own way and stop looking at it as your quote unquote sales, and you're not selling to someone, you're trying to provide them the level of comfort that they truly want. And each and every one of us would want the same level of comfort, no matter how much it costs. If we could afford it, we would want it for our own family. Like, we would want the best filtration system and IAQ system. If we had kids and there were animals in the house, or one of our kids had asthma, we would want the best for our home. So stop looking at it as sales, and just find a way to make sure that what they want as their comfort level is what we're trying to provide.
So I say this a lot in my coaching calls and even in my class. You got to stop selling and you got to start communicating. Sales is going away, right? The new generations that are coming behind us, man, they don't like to be sold.
Yeah.
They don't at all. They love to be communicated with. And boy, let me tell you, when we can speak their language, right? When we can understand their personality profile and we can speak their language, ooh, now we really start to level that playing field. Yeah. Because we're communicating with them the way they want to be communicated with, not the way we think they want to be communicated with. So now we really start to see some, and sometimes subtle, but we start to see some huge differences in the way people receive the information that we have for them. Most sales guys that do this, and girls, are a one-way street. They have they expect a one-call close, and they get out there and they have one presentation. And they've done it so many times that they're bored, and they even skip steps. They don't role play it. There's no accountability. There's no practice. They just go out and they hope for the best. And we see that more and more. That's why, we have a sales class. That's why we take selling techs and comfort advisors and remind them that, guys, it's not about sales anymore. It's about communicating, hosting upper level communication, and caring enough about the end result to study this stuff, to learn proper communication. It's not really a tactic. It's just a conversation, right? Yep. But it's a conversation that they want and need, that almost they desire for, because we're offering it in a way that we know they like to receive it.
100%. I remember, I think I was like 21 or something, and I was going to get a car that I didn't need, probably couldn't afford, but I went and got a brand new BMW. And I had one of my best friends with me, and the sales guy was with us, and I was test driving the car, and he was telling me about I just remember him using this, well, this car that you're driving now, like, it's got all these extra features and these bells and whistles, but it's, not needed for what you're wanting and whatever. And then I remember telling the buddy of mine, like, did you hear, like, he said, like, it's not needed. And this car had all these bells and whistles. And I just remember him looking at me going, yeah, but you do realize the car that you just picked, right, is the exact one that he just said. So, like, he just talked you right into what and then I started thinking about it. I was like, man, like, he did use, psychology on me to basically tell me, it's not what I needed, or, it's not a big deal. But then,
the language.
That's right.
Language. Yeah.
Because I did want it. I wanted it because, like, he was telling me that I didn't need it. And at the end of the day, like, I did want it. And I think if we could tap into that, with a lot of homeowners, like, they're not looking to pay the most money for something. Like, if you just came out and said, here's the most expensive unit, but it's the best one, like, they don't care about that. But if you kind of can tap into who they are, like, look around their home, look around at what they enjoy doing. Like, you could really find some key things as you're getting out of the car, walking up to the home. You can probably find some things to start communicating and talking about. That if you can get them to communicate and start talking, there's so much information you can pick up on sales if you can just let them talk and you just listen. And
that's why they say the bumper sticker, right? They say God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we can listen 2 times more than we speak.
Nice. I like that. So what does Joe do for What's Joe do for his mindset?
I've got a Peloton. I like that.
Okay.
I like that a lot. I live at the top of a trailhead. So I go out and I walk the trail. We've got about 650 feet and elevation changes throughout the trail, and it's only 2 miles in one ring. But it's outdoorsy and it's super fun. I picked up surfing when I was young. I used to surf the east and the west coast of Florida growing up. So, there's no waves out here, but you do have stand-up paddle boards, and I do like stand-up paddle boards. We even go fish some of the reservoirs and stuff here out in Colorado. But something exciting for my family that I can share with everybody is we're actually moving back to St. Petersburg in August of this year.
Nice.
Yeah, man. So looking forward to getting out there, hitting the flats up again and doing some of that fishing I grew up doing.
Sweet. Yeah, I lived in Brandon for a year or two, and I like that part of the country. Tampa, St. Pete, it's a pretty area.
Yeah, it's paradise for sure. Tropical paradise.
So let's wrap up by talking about how long you've been at Go Time and what some of the training classes look like, how people, which types of people should be interested in coming and how people can reach you. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, no problem. So Go Time Success Group, right? We're more than just a company name. Go Time has an association, almost an acronym to go along with it. The G is for goals. The O is for observe. The T is for take action, take massive action, as Chris Hunter says. The I is to inspect. The M is to modify. And the E is to engage. So on top of that, right, we also have a university online where we have a host of different classes for a ton of different backgrounds, different trades. We have plumbing on there. We have some electrical. We have some solar. We have some HVAC. Most of them have some VR modules offered by Interplay, which is a name of a company that is probably one of the world leaders for that type of training, right? The VR, virtual reality style training. So that's kind of fun. Outside of that, we have actually an in-person classroom where we have fundamentals. We teach fundamentals. So we have a build a tech class that's 11 days. We have a residential install class that's 6 days. And then I teach the communication and sales class, which is only 5 days. Outside of that, another arm of our business is Service Titan coaching and training. We do a ton of Service Titan support and helping people get their numbers right, helping all the reporting and stuff make sense, just really making sure that setup is dialed in. We also have a stable, I like to say, of thoroughbred racehorses. I've got a ton of coaches and trainers on my squad that are fantastic, that are really good at business coaching and even training technicians, not necessarily in a classroom setting, but more or less online in some type of a weekly engagement or even a bi-weekly engagement, something along those lines. But most of this information you can learn about by going to our website. And I can share any of those details with you guys if you want me to.
So how do they reach Joe if they would like to pick your brain and see about some of the classes you have?
Yeah. So my email is joe@gotimesuccessgroup.com. If it's a generalized question, sometimes my schedule packs out and I'm a little bit busy for a few hours in the morning. So I suggest that anybody send an email that requires an answer back or you want a timely answer to superteam@gotimesuccessgroup.com. Again, the website is gotimesuccessgroup.com. Make sure you grab the book. It's Go Time, written by Chris Hunter, Ben Stark, and Dave Rothaker. Awesome book on the in-home service contractor experience and really a lot of things that tie in and help you make a better business for yourself.
I love it. Well, Joe, I appreciate you coming on and sharing your thoughts and mindset and the communication process behind the 2022 version of the sales process of the HVAC inside the home selling. And I think we can all agree that if we stop looking at things as we're trying to sell and we would just communicate and listen and try to give the homeowner what it is that they're actually looking for, not what they're wanting, but actually what they're needing and what would make them happy, and their family happy and their dogs and their children and, you know, their mother-in-law and everyone else who would make them all happy, then we're not selling and we're actually delivering what they're truly asking for.
That's right.
And
upper level communication. You know, stop selling. Start communicating.
I love it. Well, Joe, I appreciate it. Would love to have you back in the future. Look forward to having Chris and some of the other guys on in the future. So I appreciate it. I think you dropped definitely some big value adds today, and I look forward to having you back. I hope that the move to Florida is successful, and I hope the family enjoys the year-round hot weather instead of just the half a year there in Colorado.
We're excited, man. We're excited. 6 kids, so we're excited.
I do appreciate it, man. I hope you have a great one.
All right, brother. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.